What's happening, everybody? Happy Thursday, or if you're watching live on YouTube, happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Big Bet Podcast presented by the DWZ Football Network. And tonight we're going to look at the upcoming divisional round of the NFL playoffs. But he's back. He's not in Texas. He's in his quiet little apartment in New York City. He is the dirtiest player in the game today. He is Dr. Kyle Bowser. Kyle, what's going on, man?
Memphis, you call me the dirtiest player in the game, and I feel about as dirty as I felt all goddamn football season. And to cap it all off, it was with a dirty poop Browns win on Sunday night, man. All is good though. It's we were just chatting before the show, just how hard it is to predict this sport one game at a time. These small sample sizes and momentum and moving variables. But man, I love the challenge. I love thinking about it. I love trying to figure it out. And I mean, I think we can only go up this week. What do you think?
As I've told you many times, you cannot fall off the floor. I've tried. I've been so drunk and hungover that I've woke up with like 2 fists full of shag carpet just trying to hang on for dear life. That's kind of how I feel after last week, man. I feel like I've been knocked around. Feel like I had one too many. We're going to recap the weekend. Just want to make sure let you know what's on tap and what we've recently got going on. So tomorrow night, live on YouTube, I will be doing the next edition of the Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor. That's where I bring on a listener. We review their Dynasty roster and look to get them back on track. Last week's show was a recap with Ryan. Between the time of our first visit last summer and the season, he turned that team into a championship contender. So if that's something you're interested in, tune in on YouTube tomorrow, and we can tell you some ways that we can work together. It's the only show in the Dynasty space that makes you, the listener, my co-host for the given night. And maybe if I like you, I can replace Dr. Kyle with you. And there will be no DFS on this show. Our boys Tyler and Lou from the Fantasy Hot Read will be back on Saturday around lunchtime to get you guys prepared for the Saturday and Sunday slate. They did you real solid last week. And I'll be back with the People's Propcast. Hey, Kyle, at least I haven't messed up the Propcast. I got that going for me.
You're the prop guy. I'm always on. Yeah,
I'm Nick Propagiorgio. I'm Mr. Propadopoulos, man.
I like Propzilla personally, but
Propzilla. I will. The people will allow Propzilla. I went 2-1. I will be honest. I got a little lucky with the Chris Carson one. It was over or under 82.5 combined rushing. It was at 83. He takes a backwards rush, loses a yard, and cashed several tickets. The Russ completion one was easy. The Tom Brady one was a head scratcher. We're going to talk about that when we get into the body of the show. And so I've told you what's coming up with the DFS show, the Propcast show, and the Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor show. And then just last night, Jerry and I on the Dynasty Warzone reviewed our staff rankings for the wide receiver position. So it's basically our first edition of staff rankings post NFL season and pre-free agency. Those Dynasty rankings could change depending upon what happens in free agency. If Allen Robinson lands in, say, Houston and Deshaun Watson comes back, you got to think about it. Where do you move him up? So that was a great show with Jerry. We'll be doing running backs next week. So there you go. No 5-star reviews between last night and today. But remember, I can't do your review if you don't leave it. We love covering them here on the show. And Dr. Kyle, I will confer with the group here at the DWZ. We'll do some kind of contest. We gave away a DK Metcalf jersey earlier in the season. We are like a handful of subscribers on YouTube away from 100 subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty cool. We've only been doing it for a couple of months, and then we're like 4 reviews away from 200 reviews. So maybe when we hit both of those milestones, we'll do some kind of a giveaway. We'll do a giveaway of something. We'll give away that guitar behind you. What do you think?
Hell no.
Oh, you're going to give me that Dr. Evil. How about no?
How about you don't? Scotty don't.
Scotty don't. Well, we're not giving away a guitar, but we'll give away something when we get to 100 YouTube subscribers and 200 reviews for the podcast. My Twitter handle is at DWZ Memphis. His is at DWZ_Dr. PT. But if you're not a social media person, you can reach us at dynastywarzone@gmail.com. Again, dynastywarzone@gmail.com. But hook us up, guys. Hook us up with a rating and a review so that we can continue to grow this. We have got the off-season schedule locked in, and going to be 3 to 4 shows a week during the off-season. We have rookies, we have full dynasty, and Dr. Kyle and I will be bouncing around with some gambling content. Let's get into it, man. 5-minute open. How about that? You know,
Nailed it.
we took that review very seriously a month or so ago. All right, real quick, this first segment brought to you by Viridian Global. That is the official apparel provider of the Dynasty Warzone. And they have got sweet hats. The hats have been the big seller right now. People love a good ball cap. We have the dad hat, similar to the hat I have on tonight. I'm rocking my Boston Red Sox hat, but it's that soft, comfy. It doesn't have like that 10-gallon hat look of like like Jerry rocks in on the Dynasty Warzone. But we've got tees, we've got tanks, we've got the TJ Hockamania shirt, we have Aaron Godgers, we have a lot of stuff over at Viridian Global, and you can check them out at viridianglobal.com. That is VERIDIAN global.com. And get with my boy Matty Big Chest at Matty Big Chest on Twitter. He might be able to hook you up with a promo code. So let's get into this, man. Do you want to take your beating first, or shall I take mine?
I'll go first because my beating's not as bad as yours, so I'll just warm the crew up. Yeah, what a bloodbath. But I at least hit my 6-pointer last week. I was on the Washington football team earlier in the week. They were at both 9. I got them at 9, and then they moved to 8.5. Used them in some teasers as well, which didn't go as well because, well, when I get to my 4-pointer, we'll talk about that. But the game script didn't go as I expected. I thought it was going to be. I also liked the under in that game. It wasn't in my top 6, but that was the correlational play there would be if you like Washington.
When you need me of all people to explain words to a doctor, we are in real trouble. Forget the bets for just a second.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna get my McKenzie on it. I don't think corollary is the right word there. It
correlation. Correlation.
Yeah.
CORREL. Elation. I don't know. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
By the way, I like how you come in strong. So hold on. I'm gonna give you one real quick.
I was styling out there like a champion, yeah.
All right, so you got in your 6-pointer. You're styling like a champion. What about the rest?
The 5-pointer was I took the Colts Bills over 51. That was a push because I got it at 51. Man, that game, there was a lot of points left on the field. That last Bills drive, Josh Allen, it felt like at least they were going to get a field goal, and at least the over was a lock. Because I also had the Bills covering 6.5 in that game, and as it got into the fourth quarter, it's like there's almost no way they cover 6.5. At best, it was going to be 6, even if it went to overtime, because I don't think there was going to be any extra points kicked. And Josh Allen took that 15-yard loss, and then that drive was dead, and the Colts got the ball back. Yada yada. My 4-pointer was Steelers -6, and woof 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 woof. Holy hell. Don't have much to say there. I didn't watch the game. I just know I went to check updates, and people were texting me. They're like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "What do you mean what's happening? The game started 10 minutes ago. Is there already something happening?" And before you know it, the Browns were up 21 and then 28-0, and the Steelers, I guess, still made it a game in the second half, but lost there. Lost on the Rams Seahawks under 42.5. I'll tell you what, if there's ever a killer of unders, really just momentum killers of a game, if you like a side and on the other side there is a pick 6 or a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown, oh man, that's what you can't account for in these spreads. These spreads are accurate. I think they talked about it on Straight Out of Vegas. You still like Steelers -6 against the Browns without Stefanski if it happens again, just banking on that atrocious opening happening again. But that was, that 1 in 10 or 1 in 5, whatever you want to call it. It happens 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 times, and we sometimes are on the wrong side of that.
I was not, expecting, when you have backup quarterbacks like we had John Walford start the game for the Rams, and then you had Taylor Heineke start for the football team. Those guys are supposed to help the under in that they're not as proficient in the offense, and they're supposed to help drive scoring down. but you also don't take into account that they could create turnovers. Now, neither one of these guys did. Wolford got hurt too early. Heineke
Which,
played the
yeah,
game of his life.
so so
Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say. So you know what's funny about the so when Wolford went down, because I was watching that game, and Wolford, like, the Rams offense was looking good moving the ball. I'm like, wow, the Seahawks might be in trouble. And then Wolford went down and Goff came in. I was like, okay, I think my under's still alive. Like, and there were comments. It was that a I forget who was announcing that game, if it was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman or not. But there was they made this sort of left-handed comment at the beginning of the game where it was like, we really like what John Wolford brings to this Rams offense, and so does Sean McVay, because it makes his offensive coordinating, his play calling job easier. Like, what does that say about Jared Goff? Like, if bringing in your backup makes your play calling easier, like, and then so Goff came in, I was like, this is going to be great. Goff at less than 100%, and also probably, I don't know, it just felt like he had a lack of confidence at the end of the year, and him coming into a bad spot was going to blow them up. But they ran the ball and they stuck to the game plan, and that defensive touchdown was huge for them.
Yeah, well, I knew I had the under as well, so I was out at dinner with a couple of my buddies. We all have January birthdays, and so we meet up and we catch some dinner, and we happen to be watching the game, and I saw the pick six by Williams, and then like two or three plays later, Russ goes over the top to the bomb to DK Metcalf, and I was just like, fuck. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I didn't even know what else. You're stealing poop sandwich from Jerry, but yeah, and I lost on the under on the Rams and Seahawks too, obviously.
Yeah.
But as a guy who does have I don't know, like a certain low key affection for the Rams and Jared Goff, I thought it was a big FU moment for Jared Goff. He's sitting over there looking at his thumb. One of them
Oh yeah.
looks like the size of like a hot dog. I mean, this thing's all swollen and like you're a doctor, you know what I'm talking about. He's sitting there staring at him.
Oh yeah. All of
And
a sudden, it's like you got no knuckles.
yeah, I mean, it looks like a baby. You know how babies have like those inverted knuckles. Their thumbs and fingers are so fat,
Yeah.
like and that's what he looked like. And then he made the nice connection to Cup, and Cup did go back and get the ball, and then he made that game sealing touchdown pass to Robert Woods. And I thought if anything that gave Jared Goff all of his swagger back, and
Oh,
he's wanting to start.
He needed that so badly.
Let me
I'm
ask you
so
a
happy
question.
for it. Yeah.
As a doctor, because this is what you do.
Yeah.
So you saw his thumb. Obviously, you don't have privy to X-rays and what
Sure.
happened. He's going to have. Let's see. He's played on Saturday. Playing on Saturday again this week. Is 7 days. Obviously, the swelling will go down. He'll be. I think it's 19 days at this point removed from surgery.
Mm-hmm.
In your best, but yet with limited information. What do you think the condition of that thumb will be? And anything on Wolford's neck? Because I heard today on Fox Sports Radio that if Goff is the starter, the line is 7. But if Wolford is the starter, the line goes to 8.5. So,
Interesting.
so who do you project as the potential starter based on what you can tell? No, and like I said, again, this is not me putting Dr. Kyle on the spot. This is Dr. Kyle being a very intelligent guy. Don't ever tell him I said that. But being a very intelligent guy in this area, but also asking for an educated guess.
So I don't know what is Wolford's injury? Is it just neck strain?
Dude, all I know is I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a production facilities manager, but I know when a son of a bitch goes out on a stretcher with a neck brace on, he's either suing for whiplash or some kind of shenanigans, or he really jacked up his neck. I'm going to lean toward he really jacked up his neck. I don't know how they could let him play, but allegedly he's on track.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as what this means for the game this week, I think, look, Goff managed to be more than competent this past week, and I think probably him not starting was that there was any question mark at all, and it was a playoff game. It's there's very very little risk to be taken. So I would project that maybe he was somewhere around 75% probably going into this past week's game, and it is very feasible that you can get from 7. So he's probably 75% on Saturday. Probably woke up feeling a little bit closer to 65% on Sunday. But assuming he's got the right team of individuals around him and he's doing all of his homework and whatever modality, soft tissue, isometrics, anything to get swelling down, anything to get mobility and strength up between now and Saturday, it's very feasible that he then gets to 90%. And so what I heard about this game past Saturday, which, Michael Lombardi had his inside source that was an inside source that said that line was not going to change regardless of Goff or Wolford started. And so that leads me to believe, like, okay, Goff and Wolford aren't the same quarterback at all. Like, even if you hate Goff, he's at least been a good starting quarterback for years in the NFL. So it was that Goff at probably somewhere between 70-75% equals John Wolford, and how teams game plan for that. And so you saying that there's a 1.5 point difference for this upcoming week. I mean, now we have Wolford's injury, so that muddies the number waters too. But I think Goff is probably much closer, but won't be 100%. And any surgery, it takes time to get to 100%. And I was shocked. It's a throwing hand thumb, like, very important, especially he's got small hands. Like, that's not like a joke. Like, he's
got like
measurable.
baby like baby hands. He's like
Yeah.
Joe baby hands Burrow.
Exactly.
But, I also took a loss on the Tennessee and Baltimore over 54.5. I thought, man, these guys have put up a ton of points the last 2 years. I wasn't expecting a sub 35 point performance out of those two. The one that I really caught off guard, and I tell you, he retained his job today, but I was very dissatisfied with, was Matt Nagy. I was Mitch wasn't great, but is it Wims? Not Mims. Wims drops the touchdown. Yeah.
That was brutal.
Touchdown. That was brutal.
And that felt like one of those plays that changes a game too.
Absolutely.
Like, if that hits, Mitch is a different quarterback the rest of the game. It misses, and then Mitch is that guy the rest of the game. That one that's like, if we only had that one play, like, I don't think.
For me, it was the play calling. To me, the play calling was atrocious. Okay, so they're throwing the ball a little bit on first down. I'm like, okay, cool, thumbs up. I like that. And then they would go incomplete pass on first down, and without fail, the next play was David Montgomery for a 2-yard dive
against
against one of the top 7 rushing defenses in all the league.
Yeah. New Orleans was 7 this year.
I mean, here's the thing. If I can see this sitting on my couch in Indiana, what do you think the defensive coordinator for the Saints thinks you're going to do? It was just horrible. I didn't think the game plan by the Bears was good at all. I don't think the season's over. How could you not get Mitch Trubisky more involved in the running game? He's a limited passer, but he's a pretty good athlete. Why are you not putting this guy, I don't know. I don't understand this fascination with forcing him to be a drop back passer. It's beyond mind blowing.
Interesting to look into, and I don't know. Like, so Nagy was the play caller through 10 weeks this year, and they handed it over to some other guy,
to Bill Lazor, and still.
Then Trubisky started running the ball like 5 to 7 times a game, and then he doesn't run it this game. Like, do you think Nagy's fingerprints are on this game plan more than they were the past 4 or 5 games?
It feels like if his fingerprints were on the game plan, they're probably coated in Cheeto dust. That's the level. That's the level. That's the level of a Mensa member we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
In Chicago. Again, you're playing one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC. I like the Packers quite a bit as well, and you just absolutely refuse to put this guy, who we know is limited. We know he's limited, in a position where he can succeed. Now, I know they lost Tariq Cohen. That didn't have, on the season in total, but it's just mind-blowing. I'm going to be very curious to see what the Bears do in the offseason with the QB position. But, man, we're pretty deep into this. I also pushed on the Buffalo-Indy game because I had it at 51. If you got that closer to game day, you got it at 50.5, or you got it at 50 straight up. I think I may have even saw a 49.5 here or there, and you got home. A lot of people lament the field goal that Frank Reich didn't kick in the first half. I just think that there are times, especially when you're on the road, I liked the fact that he went for it. I didn't like the series of play calls that went up
Led
there.
up to it.
I
Yeah.
didn't like the halfback pitch that lost 2 yards, and then I didn't like
That was brutal. I'll never
I
understand
didn't
that
like
play
the
call in
pass.
short yardage situations.
Just line him up behind Quentin Nelson, like
Yeah.
I think it's like him and Deion Sanders are like, the guys who start their career with 3 straight All-Pro selections in the league. Line it up with your rookie running back who's been kicking ass the last half of the season. Put him behind your All-Pro guard and go for broke. Take 2 shots from there and see what happens. But the crackback and I didn't mind going for it. I just didn't like the 2 plays.
I mean,
That's what
and
hurt.
Pittman very well could have caught that ball.
He shouldn't have been in that position to have had to
You're
cut
right.
it.
Yeah.
It should have been JT for 2.
Yeah.
So there's our recap. It was
I had one more. I had one more good one. I had the Ravens -3 as my. That was my 5th ranked or 2-pointer. I was all on the Ravens this week. So
I had the lean to the Ravens. My leans were great. My leans last week were 5-1, but my actual bets not so. Here, I will summarize my big bets for you from last week.
You were cold as ice.
I was cold as ice last week, man. So we're going to get right back up on the horse, but we want to make sure to let you know that our first 2 games, we're going to cover the Saturday games presented by mybookie.ag. This is the place if you're looking for action and you live in a municipality where action is just not maybe copacetic yet. We're looking forward to the day where everyone can get down on sports. But until then, if you're looking for a great friend, hook up with my man, Dr. Kyle, and he can hook you up with mybookie.ag. I know that is the book that you use there in New York City with no problems. And
exclusively,
they treat you real well.
yes,
You and I have
no
talked
issues.
about this. No issues on deposits, no issues on withdrawals anytime that you've needed anything. It has been very good to Dr. Kyle. So if you're looking for a place to get some action down and you don't want to go down to the local bar or car dealership to settle up every Tuesday, you want to move into the 2020s. You just want to do it all on your phone, do some app-based, some computer-based gambling. Man, get connected with MyBookie. And if you're listening to the podcast, just hit pause. There is a hyperlink to the sign-up page with the promo code DWZ Memphis. It will get you a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So real simple. You deposit 100, they're going to match it with 50. You're going to have 150 in your account. You can do your own math from there. But just go over to mybookie.ag and enter the promo code DWZ Memphis. Or if you're listening on the podcast, just go into the show notes, 1 click, do the sign up thing, get your money transferred. Pretty easy stuff. You will be in action just like my good friend Dr. Kyle here. Right, Kyle?
You got it.
You got it. So, man, you got it on. I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to let you get it on Saturday afternoon. I believe this is a 4:00 start time. We have the LA Rams going to the Green Bay Packers. Again, the current line on mybookie.ag is -7 and a total of 46. I will let you get into this. Where did you have any rankings on the side or total in this game?
So my 4th one, my 1-point ranking. I assumed we were switching to 4 because there's only 4 games this week, correct? We didn't
Yeah, I didn't like doing 6. So on a side note, professional gamblers will tell you if you're betting more than 2 sides a week, that's too many. And
Yeah.
we're doing this for the sake of a show. We're doing this for entertainment. We're handicapping it the best that we can. But it's hard to beat NFL lines. And the closer you get to game day, the harder that line is going to be to beat. You got to get them early when they come out. Sometimes the look aheads are a little bit off, but it's kind of like sharpening a knife or an axe. Every time you run it across that stone, it gets sharper. Every day you wait to make these bets, these lines get sharper and harder to beat. So they have it at 7. So we're just gonna rank them what we like. We're going to give them 4 bets that we like. We're not recommending that you bet all of them. That would be a little reckless and haphazard. But we're going to put some handicap behind it. So I'm going to let you fire first.
So my 1-pointer, there was a little bit of a theme last week with I think road dogs. A lot of dogs covered last week. I think 5 of 6. And so I'm going Rams +7 this week. And that 7 is a key number. I think if it gets down to 6, I'm not touching it. Or at like 6 or 6.5, it's a very teasable Green Bay side. But with such a low total, which I think is already moving south, a low variance game, I really like what the Rams have done with their game plan, especially last week, especially like they're running the ball very well. They have gotten healthier at offensive line. There are some question marks there. I know. I think Whitworth was a limited practice, and one of their guards was limited or did not practice this today. So you will want to keep an eye on that. But Cam Akers looks good. This offensive line looks good. But more than anything, I feel like this defense is playing with just 110% of effort and aggression. The way this game stacks up for me is we have the Rams running game, and which in turn could really open up the play action, which has worked well for Goff in the Goff and Good Gurley years when the other defenses had to stay honest against the run. They haven't had to much the past year and a half until Akers started breaking out, and I think that's correlated. Used it correctly there. And so, and Green Bay does not, they're not bad against the run, but they're also not good against it. And I wonder if there's some, the Green Bay was probably leading in a lot of games this year. I know they were leading in a lot of games this year. So probably many teams had to abandon the run to play catch up. I don't see that happening in a game in a low total. I do wonder. Yeah, obviously Green Bay has the bye. So like the question marks are like Green Bay is coming off of the bye. They're at home. We know that the Green Bay grass is a special surface that road teams can struggle to get footing on. We saw that with Tennessee against them, but it was snowy.
Apparently Dr. Kyle knows a little bit about football, but he knows a lot about grass.
I mowed a lot of lawns when I was younger in Memphis.
That was more of like a weed joke, but keep going with your handicap. I'm just jumping in on you.
Yeah, I like it. I like you. I mean, I thought you were gonna give me some RJ to Fezzik shit where it's like, oh, no. So you're a handicapper and you're this and you're that. Yeah, you film now too.
Are you a landscaper in your spare time? Well, I got news for you, mister. You got yourself a cross bet on this one right here.
That's the Jeopardy.
You have action, my friend. I like Green Bay -7. This is my 3-star ranked bet. I lean to the under. I would be 100% on the under if Aaron Donald was 100%. If you've ever had rib injuries in your life, it ain't, and you know this as a doctor, he's not going to be 100%. And without him to create that pass rush, it makes me nervous. But like I said, why I lean the under, the Rams give up the fewest points in the regular season all year. They give up 18.5 points a game. The only team in the NFL to give up less than 300 points on the entire season. I also like the under because the Rams rush the ball the 11th most in the league. 43.5% of their plays are rushing plays. They averaged 29.5 rush attempts per game. I think that number could even go up with Cam Akers being a little bit healthier, and double that if John Wolford is the starter because he's a bit of a runner himself. And Green Bay is 13th versus the rush on defense. They kind of have this misleading stat because they give up fantasy points to the running back, but they're not horrible. They're toward the middle. 13th is right there in that middle third of the league. And Green Bay also rushes the ball more than you think. I bet you if I told you that Green Bay rushed the ball the 7th most on average in the league at 44.7% of the time, that would probably catch you off guard. I think Wolford's
not me. I did my research.
Yeah, I think Wolford is going to start. Everything I hear and I believe. And another reason why I like the under in this game is I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to turn the ball over the way that Russ did. So I do believe Green Bay gets the best of them. I don't think this is a Chiefs situation. We'll get into that game here in just a minute with is 20 days rest too much for certain players. Green Bay didn't do that. They played their starters the majority of the game. I think they played almost all of it against the Bears because they were looking to lock up this bye. Yeah. And for me, all this, accumulate. I like, we've seen Jared Goff if he plays. We're going to see him play in the cold weather. If you ever saw the Chicago game or games where Goff plays in the cold weather, kid who went to Cal, guy who works in California, you put him in one of the coldest cities in America. And even though it doesn't look like horrible weather in Green Bay, there's about a 30% chance of snow on Saturday evening. This is not a recipe for LA Rams. LA Rams need to have home field themselves to bring people into SoFi where the weather is good and the track is fast. I also like I don't like because he's one of my favorite players, but it's bad for LA that Cooper Kupp is banged up, coming off some knee bursitis, although it looks like he's going to give her a whirl. I think between two beat-up quarterbacks, a beat-up defensive stud, and Aaron Donald, a couple of things I will tell you on a prop bet. I'll give you this one for free. I won't do it on the People's Propcast.
It'll be free on the Propcast too, though. Don't worry.
Well, we'll mention it as well. Well, they're all free.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
everything's for free here on the big bet. I've already bet. I think it was 67.5 rushing yards for Cam Akers. I'm also peeping his receiving prop. It is 2.5 receptions. Over his last, I think, 4 or 5 games, he's averaged no less than 3 targets a game. Now, he's not hit 3 a bunch, but in a game where I think they're going to be behind, and what's the pass that Jared Goff can control? The short to intermediate passing game. That will include Akers more, so I like his rushing, his receiving, and his reception props. I have bet the rushing yard wins, but you got yourself some action, Dr. Kyle.
My question for you, so you like the under, but you like Green Bay to cover 7. So more or less, you don't think the Rams can score 18.5 points.
No,
that's more or less what you're trying to say.
Correct. I think the final score of this game is very similar to that Tennessee and Ravens game. I think you're going to see a score of something like 24-10, 24-13. I think the Rams are going to try to extend drives and limit the exposure of a risky game plan with Walford or Goff with a hurt thumb. And they're going to try to keep Aaron Rodgers in check. And as we know, we've seen Aaron Rodgers play some really good defenses, and nothing really stops my man Aaron Rodgers. So you got yourself standard bet. We won't make anyone uncomfortable with me and Dr. Kyle's bet range. I am up 1 unit on him because he was a big fan of the Atlanta Falcons because he's a sucker.
I wasn't a big fan of them. I was kind of a fan of them when I thought Julio was going to play, but we don't have to go down memory lane right now.
All right, man. Julio told you to get the stretch. All right, that was a Bruno Mars reference. All right, this next game is Baltimore at Buffalo, the primetime game. Check out the big brain on the NFL. How about that? Last week it wasn't enough to put Indy and Buffalo in primetime. We had to have them kick the game off. I'm actually really impressed with the NFL not putting Green Bay in the primetime game with the big LA market. In the big LA market, I'm really impressed that they're putting Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. This is 2 of 3 of the 4 best young quarterbacks in the AFC. I mean, no offense to Baker, he ain't one of them, but Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, those are 4.
Trubisky.
He's in the NFC. The truth.
I'm sorry. I thought you were going with the draft class. Yeah.
No. I'm referring to the AFC. But this has got 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL with Josh Allen and Lamar. The line again, Buffalo laying 2.5, and the total is 50. I'll go ahead and run into this one real quick. The total over 50 is my 2-star ranked bet this week. I know I got bit by Baltimore last week, not covering the over against Tennessee. But this is part of the reason why I liked Baltimore last week to go over. Baltimore is the 7th highest scoring offense in the NFL. They scored 29.3 points a game. Buffalo is the 2nd highest scoring team in the NFL. They score 31.3 points per game. That's 60.6 points of output out of these 2 offenses a game. The weather is not supposed to be bad at game time. I know there's talk of snow, but I did the hourly forecast, and there is, the chance of precipitation that I saw is sub 10%. I think it said 6, and the game's going to be in the low 30s. I think Buffalo, and the one thing I love about this over is that Buffalo has the firepower to come back from a 10-point deficit. If Buffalo gets up 20 points, I think you'll see Lamar in comeback mode. We saw this last year in the playoffs against Tennessee. And man, I just see this one finishing somewhere similar to that Colts. And I mean, we got to think that the Baltimore offense is better than the Indy offense. I don't think the Baltimore defense is going to play that much better than the defense that the Colts played last week. The Colts defense looked great. I mean, they really did. They gave that team every shot to win this game. And Buffalo, these two teams aren't great in yards per play. Buffalo is 15th at 5.5 yards per play, and Baltimore is 7th on defense at 5.2. My only concern was that last week Baltimore only put up 20 points versus one of the worst defenses in the NFL in Tennessee. But I have more. I guess I have more faith in the Buffalo offense and play calling than Tennessee. Tennessee just seemed to be, it's as if Mike Vrabel said, "Hey, you know what we did last year, Dr. Kyle? Last year we just ran the ball down their throat with Derrick Henry."
Yeah,
And
they didn't have a contingency plan there.
They really did,
especially because they went up early. They had that 10-point lead, and so that was probably even like confirmation bias to not ever change the game plan.
It was, and the announcers kept saying it. The if you get Derrick Henry 26 rushes a game, here's their awesome record. I really like Coach. No, it's the worst. It's the worst.
Correlation does not prove causation.
Yeah, exactly. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
No.
And you got to look at the fabric and the texture of the game. That's where I think a coach like Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll, I think that's where they look at this and say, hey, you know what? If this isn't working, we're going to pivot to this. And they'll make better halftime adjustments than I think Tennessee did. So I like the over. If I had to lean to the side, I would lean to Buffalo minus the 2.5. Like I said, this feels very much like the Indy Buffalo game. If you told me the score was a repeater at 27-24, not only does that get the over, but that means Buffalo covers. And that's really what I feel. 28-31, 27-24, somewhere in that neighborhood. Not way over, not Cleveland-Pittsburgh over, but over enough to get the cheese. And if I had to lean to the side, I'm leaning to the minus 2.5 from Buffalo. What about you, man? What do you make of the handicap of this game?
So the total feels perfect because I was looking at it and it like very snap decision. I was like, oh, over 50. Buffalo's been an over team all year. Baltimore has, their offense has gotten hot late against some bad teams. But then watching Baltimore play last week, like to me. So you said like you don't think Baltimore's defense will do much better than Indy. I think it might be a little bit better. It's like Indy was not great on defense in the second half of the year. I don't know if we actually saw a much better Indianapolis Colts defense so much as a Buffalo Bills offense that maybe doesn't run the ball so well. And I think they had a good game plan for Josh Allen, but I think Baltimore can just look at Indy's game plan and say, all right, we just got to keep Josh Allen in the pocket because what Josh Allen did in the last 2 minutes of that first half, like that was mean. That was mean. But I actually my 4-point bet is. So I think it'll get back to 3 because right now in my bookie it's Baltimore plus 2.5 at even money plus 100. So it feels like the books are doing everything they can to avoid getting back to that opening number of 3, which I wish I got it at. But to me it feels like these teams go through this undulating period throughout the year, and I just feel like Baltimore is catching fire, and Josh Allen he was great. He is great. He's a top 3 dynasty quarterback. He is, a top 5 or 6 NFL franchise quarterback. But he almost got in his own way again at the end of this game, similar to what happened against Houston last year. And it almost felt like Buffalo was just like, okay, we just got to get out of this one. And maybe that gets the monkey off their back. Maybe it was that they haven't won a playoff game in so long. They were at home. They had fans for the first time all season. There was that anxiety, that pressure. But to let that Colts offense back into that game when it felt like, they had all the momentum, whereas the Ravens were down, kept their composure. And in, my dynasty group chat, we're like, I feel Lamar's going to break one soon. He's going to break one soon. He's ready. And then sure enough, 5 seconds later, 48 yards downfield, and you're like, holy shit, that guy is still an absolute animal. And then from then on out, it was Ravens the rest of the way. They dominated the line of scrimmage. Calais Campbell being back was just huge for them because that's I worked with a player on the Houston Texans this year, and we just shoot the shit sometimes, and it's like he's a linebacker. Like, who's the hardest guy you've ever tackled? And he's like, he never wanted to get in the way of LeGarrette Blount. And I'm like, okay, so you play in Houston. I'm like, what about Derrick Henry? He's like, he's a different style runner. Like, he's very big, but he's an upright runner. And it's once he gets speed going downfield. If you get him at the line of scrimmage or close to it, he hasn't gotten the momentum up to really be a big runner that you would expect out of like a Jerome Bettis, LeGarrette Blount, Brandon Jacobs in his prime type guy. And then sure enough, the Ravens, like, they hit him in or at the backfield over and over to the point where, Tennessee was like, I guess we can't do anything else. So, that's a lot of narrative stuff. The line feels right. Like, Baltimore's on the road. I don't know. Road teams have scored more points than home teams relative to the spread this year. So I think that's a moot point at this point. So I want to get on this Baltimore, like they're flying. Like, I want to get on it while it's hot, or while it's still catching steam before it gets too hot and the books catch up. So 4-pointer, yes, it's good enough to take at 2.5. Like, honestly, I'll probably grab the money line somewhere. But if it gets to 3, then it is surefire. Like you said, that 27-24 seems doable. I just think it might be a 27-24 or a 24-20, and Baltimore's on the other side with a victory.
Yeah, my concern with Baltimore is that they could barely put up 20 points against, like, again, I mentioned this earlier, against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, literally. And Marquise Brown is not going to be wearing out Tre'Davious White the way he wore out Adoree Jackson. It's apples and pomegranates as far as that goes. I really see that Buffalo will be able to do enough on defense to limit the Ravens, but I see a superior game plan. In Buffalo.
Let me ask you, and this is one point I'm just thinking of now. So Lamar Jackson. So we talked about this earlier in the year about familiarity on defense against Lamar Jackson. Have the Bills played Lamar Jackson? Do we know that? It didn't happen this year.
They may have. Oh. They may have, but we just, Tennessee had beaten Baltimore twice, and that familiarity didn't do anything for them. Same thing with Cleveland. The couple of games before. The only team that's really gotten the best of Baltimore on a regular basis has been Kansas City. Yeah. And I'm just, how about this? I know John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl. I think Sean McDermott's the better coach. I really like the matchup of a couple of good coordinators. You got, was it Wink Martindale for the Ravens and Brian Daboll for the Bills. I think this is going to be a really good game and really good way to end Saturday night. But before we get into Sunday, I want to jump into our sponsor, Hate Brand Goods. As you guys know, this is the athletic apparel brand that I rock. I've gotten Dr. Kyle here hooked. I'm actually wearing hooked. I mean, like my wife is like, how many of these shorts do you need? And I'm like, all of them. I was like, there's one pair that I can't get. I'm hoping he does like a retro. They're called the Mexican blanket shorts. Gotta have them. You want the floral AF.
I check the website at least twice a week.
You have to. They have a drop. They have a drop tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Thursday, they have a drop on Thursday the 14th at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. And even on the drop, you use promo code Memphis at checkout. You will save some money. They have got some really unique stuff on top of just athletic apparel brands. So go to thehvii.com. It'll come up in your search bar on Google. And man, check him out. Matt's a good dude. He's got a podcast of his own. It's called UMSO, UMSO. And he's a really funny dude. He's also very introspective about all things sport, weightlifting, fitness, and just overall, man. So check it all out over at thehate.com. And I'll tell you who got some hate was Cleveland from Chase Claypool. What a little him and Juju Smith-Schuster are too worried about being TikTok stars. Then
why can't they keep their mouths shut in that?
I don't know.
Steelers wide receiver, like, what are you doing? Like, just you should be playing. Like, Monday, they should all be like on yachts or playing golf or like whatever. You're gonna lose that game that bad, and then all you got to do is get on TikTok and be like, "Oh, they're gonna get clapped next week." Like, really?
But who does that serve? It serves nothing but your fragile little ego because you got beat by him. But anyway, I am not a
Yeah,
Cleveland
sorry.
Browns fan, but I don't play one on this podcast. We got Cleveland at Kansas City. This line's 9.5. Now it opened at 10. It has since dropped, which makes sense. 10 is a key
I think it's
number.
back at 10 actually.
Okay, I wrote up this show sheet this afternoon,
Yeah.
and the total is 56. I have nothing on this game. I lean to the under 56. I believe the Chiefs can do their part to get to 56, but I'm not so sure about Cleveland. This game feels like your best case scenario is a push. Something like 35-21. Obviously Cleveland's going to want to establish the run, but
Yeah.
here's the thing. I just don't see Baker Mayfield in that offense keeping up in a NASCAR race against this Kansas City, offense. And I also like it because Kansas City starters have not really played meaningful snaps in 20 days. So I think they're going to come out. They're going to be a little sluggish. I don't think Kansas City's going to spot them. I don't think Kansas City's first series of possessions is going to go turnover for a touchdown, punt, interception, punt, interception. If it does, and Cleveland gets up 21, we saw last year in the playoffs against Houston and Tennessee, that still wasn't enough. They actually went on to cover both of those games. So do they get beat by 10 points? I don't know. But this game, to me, like I said, it feels somewhere in the neighborhood 35-21. I think Kansas City, they have eclipsed 30 points only twice in their last 6 games. So it's not like they've been exactly setting the scoreboard on fire. If I had to lean to the total, I will just lean to Cleveland plus the 9.5. My prediction on the final score of this game is 31-23. I think it'll be a slow first half for Kansas City. I think they'll get it going. And Kansas City has only covered once in their last 8 games. I'm not necessarily sure that they cover here. I think Cleveland puts up a fight, but I think the minute that if they get down by 10 or 14 points and the game is solely on the shoulder or more like the arm of Baker Mayfield, it makes me really nervous. But I do think Cleveland under Stefanski can keep this one a little bit close, and I think you see a much more conservative game plan with Stefanski back in the lineup. Because how do you beat a high-scoring offense? I'm a Colts fan. I remember seeing Bill Belichick and a lot of teams do this to Peyton Manning when he was in Indianapolis. I saw the Colts return that favor to Aaron Rodgers in the game where the Colts played Aaron Rodgers. I think he was on the field for like 8 to 10 minutes all of the second half. How do you do it?
I remember that one.
Long grinding drives with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I lean to the under, and I think the under. You like this word now; it's your new word. I think if you like the under, like I do, you have to like the Cleveland plus the 9.5. I think the under and Cleveland are correlated. There you go. But I wouldn't be getting down on either one of these games.
I got Cleveland as my 3-pointer plus 10. And you pretty much hit the nail on the head of as far as what I think will happen. Again, like everybody's like, oh, I'm afraid of the Chiefs. I'm afraid of the Chiefs, and I'm afraid of the Chiefs too. But like we're afraid of the Chiefs from 2019. We're not really afraid of the Chiefs from 2020. And I don't know what's all that different. We talk about Super Bowl hangovers, like the 49ers from last year, the Falcons from the year after that, the Eagles. Since they won the Super Bowl, they can't beat anybody outside the NFC East. And I wonder if the Chiefs were just so good last year that their Super Bowl hangover just moves them from 1 to like a very mediocre still 1. But again, we haven't seen the Chiefs really put away a team in a very long time. And it feels like a good matchup. Just like I like the Rams matchup against the Packers. I like that Cleveland runs the ball really well. I think they can establish the run early against a Chiefs team that hasn't stopped the run all season. They're not the worst in the league, but I think they're in the bottom 10. Let me check my numbers. Crunching. Kansas City was 24th overall. Bottom 8 as far as stopping the run, which is interesting for a team that won 14 games. You would think that this is what I brought up with the Packers run defense. They probably didn't have to face that many rushing attempts, and I'll look that up in a second. Why are teams running the ball so much against the Chiefs if the Chiefs are so good and they're playing from so far ahead all the time, like we have ingrained into our heads? And again, like you said, lots of rest, I like teams that have maintained some momentum. I also think like, okay, so the Chiefs knew they were going to play the worst team to win in the AFC this past weekend, but I bet nobody was expecting it to be Cleveland. So maybe there was some game planning going for the potential to play Baltimore again, a team they're familiar with, or Tennessee. I just think if there was any before this weekend work to be done, it wasn't towards Cleveland, especially the second we found Stefanski wasn't going to play, and an O lineman was going to be out, this and that. And now Cleveland gets their guy back. They get Stefanski back, who very much could be coach of the year. If not, he's in the running for it. And again, like if this might be a game where like I'll bet it's my 3-pointer. I'll bet Cleveland +10. I think I already have. But I'm gonna watch the first 5 to 10 minutes very closely, and if I see things I don't like from the Cleveland offensive side of the ball, and the Chiefs look like they're moving it, I might try and figure out a way to hedge. But otherwise, 10 points, a lot of points. Like, yeah, if Kansas City gets up 21-0, I'm effed. Like, but it could happen in any game. But I just don't see Kansas City getting out to a hot start against a team they had no idea they were playing until late Sunday night. And I think, yeah, slow start. I probably have repeated a few things now, so I'll leave it at that. And again, yeah, 56 is such a high number. The only way I see it going over is so Kansas City throws the ball well and they don't run the ball well. Cleveland stops the run, but they don't stop the pass. So like the matchups are very much like good offense against a defense that's not great at it on both sides of the ball. But then I play this philosophical game in my head. But if they know that, then they're going to do everything to do the other one. Blah blah blah. Let's move on to the next game. Cleveland +10.
Yeah, I was just going to let you keep going. I wanted to give you one of these.
To the fucking point, because I don't know what you're talking about.
I wanted to hit you with some Tony Soprano, but I was like, man, this motherfucker's on a roll, so we're just gonna let him go with it. And I don't know where he's going, but we're gonna go. The one analogy that I wanted to share with you was I think it was Colin Cowherd who compared the Chiefs to the Golden State Warriors after they won their first championship. I believe that was the 73 and 9 season, and they were just kind of like kicking it, and they kept saying all throughout that NBA playoff series that, you know what, they're going to get it into gear. They're going to get it into gear. They're going to get it into gear. And that was the year that LeBron and Kyrie snuck up and got him. So I thought that, well, I'm not a big basketball guy, but I remember that basketball playoff. And I remember I remember that pretty vividly, that the Kyrie shot and the LeBron block and everything. And it just feels like Kansas City kind of forgot where the accelerator is. So I agree with you. I lean to the under as well. I lean to Cleveland getting now 10. We'll call it 10 for continuity on the show. I have it at 9.5. This next game has two bets that I really like. I have Tampa Bay at New Orleans. New Orleans laying 3 at home and a total of 51.5. It feels like these two Sunday games should have different totals. They should flip-flop. They should trade. Tampa Bay +3 is my 4-star bet of the week. My favorite bet of the week, and the over 51.5 is my 1-star. First of all, I can't see Tom Brady losing 3 times to the same defense in the same season. I know they got embarrassed a little bit in the second go around at home. Mike Evans, another week healthier with a knee issue. And the one thing on this offense for me, if you've been watching the last handful of Tampa Bay Buccaneer games, Antonio Brown has become a problem. He has become a big problem. He looks to be in football shape.
The good kind of problem in Tampa Bay, not the bad kind of problem in Oakland.
He is ripping people up. On a Dynasty side note, I covered this on the Dynasty Warzone on Wednesday. I really could think that if Tom Brady's coming back for one more year, I could see Tampa Bay letting Chris Godwin walk in free agency. It might sound blasphemous, but, they still got to pay Tom. Are they going to re-sign Gronk at tight end? What are they going to do with Michael Evans, Mike Evans, who's got a huge contract? And Chris Godwin's not going to, play cheap. He's at least going to want Odell Beckham Jr., Adam Thielen money, which is $14 million a year.
Easily.
So based on the way AB's playing, I could see them saying, man, we like you, Chris, but we can't afford you. They can't afford the salary capping with guys like Julio and Amari Cooper and Michael Thomas making $20 million a year. That's going to inflate the franchise tag number. So just on a side note, I thought I would bring that up as a way of, also mentioning that Antonio Brown is playing like an absolute stud. So Tampa is third in the league versus the run and third in the league in QB pressure. What does that tell me? They're going to limit the ground game of Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, and they're going to put all this pressure on Drew Brees. The Bears did not do a great job of getting pressure on Drew Brees, even though they had Khalil Mack. And the reason why I like the over, Tampa in their last 6 games have scored 31, 44, 47, 31, 26, 27. That's an average of 30 points a game. That means I would only need New Orleans to score 21 and a half. I think New Orleans will do more than their part. This is a battle of the third best scoring offense versus the fifth. Tampa Bay is the third best. New Orleans is the fifth best. And they probably could have been better had Brees played all season long. They scored 57 in game 1 and they scored 41 in game 2. But in game 2, Tampa only had 3 points and the Saints put up 38. So I definitely love the over 51 and a half here. But I like Tampa Bay. I don't think you're going to get the best of Tom Brady 3 times in a season. It felt like he got that primetime monkey off of his back last week. And we could be seeing what could be the very last game of Drew Brees' career, but I am going to take Tampa Bay plus the 3. I could even see this coming down being something like a 31-30, a 27-28 game, where maybe Tampa Bay doesn't win outright, but that 3 gets me home. It's a key number, and I love the over. I probably should have had that higher than my 1 star, but I definitely like those 2 numbers. What do you have on this game, Dr. Kyle?
So my 2-pointer is over 51 and a half. And my lean is Tampa Bay. I had the same thought. I'm like, what are the odds the Saints can just bring the heat against Brady? Like, I was on Washington last week against Brady, thinking that it would also be an under game. We liked the Brady under props, but the Brady Arians offense, the past 6 games or whatever you mentioned all those points in, it's different. It is different. We can't stop saying that it was bad defense they were playing against, because that Washington defense, like Gronk blocking Chase Young.
They annihilate. I mean, I was stunned to see Washington, who was like the number 2 team in the league in quarterback pressure and sacks, were able to get very little pressure on Tom Brady up the middle. All week long, you heard about the 4 first-rounders on the offensive line, and they couldn't get pressure up the middle. They couldn't get pressure. They have that offensive lineman, Ali Marpet, who hasn't allowed a sack in like 18 games. They got the rookie Tristan Wirfs, who is just a man. You mentioned Gronk. Hey, you wonder why Cameron Brate's getting loose for a couple of catches, including a touchdown? Well, it's because Gronk will stay in and do the dirty work and block.
I love that. Like, I just love a guy
offense
that will just like play the role of like I'm sure like he just like wanted Chase Young to come up to him and be like, just like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like you are not getting to Tom Brady. Like I just feel like Gronk is that type of animal who just wants that challenge. Like screw stats. Like at this point, he came back for a Super Bowl. He didn't come back to catch 12 touchdown passes and 1,000 yards again. Like he's here for Brady. He's here to win. And like I just love that in a player, especially a guy who like he catches some flack for some things from time to time. Like I thought that was so impressive.
Yeah, so you also like Tampa Bay plus the 3. That's a lean for you, and then you like the over as well.
Yeah, I like the over is my 2-pointer. I just wonder if there's something that like if New Orleans and Sean Payton, I don't know who their defensive coordinator is right now. I probably should. If there's just something they have their thumb on with the Bruce Arians offense and or Tom Brady, but either way, like you said, like Tampa Bay, like in this.
But hold on. But wouldn't that have been the same narrative you would have put on the Tennessee-Baltimore game, that 2 games in a row Tennessee had beaten Baltimore, and you could have said that maybe there was something that Mike Vrabel and the defense in Tennessee just had something on Lamar?
Did Baltimore reach their expected team total for the game? I don't think they did.
No,
I think they stopped. I think it was just Baltimore was more prepared on defense for the Tennessee offense.
And I think the Tampa Bay offense, especially the way that it's clicking right now, is going to be much more prepared for the New Orleans defense. Like you said, is it Cameron Jordan or Jordan Cameron? One of them is hooking up with Tiger Woods' ex-wife, and the other one's going to be rushing Tom Brady on Saturday night. And
I'm picturing both of them hooking
yes,
up, and it's not going well.
at the same time, never mind. But here's the thing: if Chase Young's not lighting Tom Brady up, not that
Yeah.
Cameron Jordan can't do it, but Gronk's going to be into Chip, Gronk's going to be in to help out. I really see all of the pressure being on Drew Brees. In the back of his mind, he's carrying the burden of this could be my last game. This could be my last. This could be my last game.
There's going to be no run game on either side of the ball. Both the Bucs and the Saints stop the run well. The Bucs have completely abandoned trying to run the ball. Like that's just Brady drops back and slings it.
Another reason why I love the over.
Yeah, the over is for sure the way to go.
Yeah, the ball's going to be in the air more, which stops the clock. The ball's going to be in the air more, which could be deflections, interceptions, and short fields. Will yield
bigger
points.
Plays.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think all the pressure's on Drew Brees. I don't think the pressure's on Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady has already got it in his mind that he's coming back in 2021 to make one last run on the last year of that contract. And I think Drew Brees knows he's done. I think that he knows that the minute he loses, he's done. And I brought it up last week. I think there's still some confidence rattled on this Saints team. You have the Minnesota Miracle. You have the PI gate with the pass interference where they pushed off. And then last year you had the Rudolph rebound where Kyle Rudolph basically pushed off or blocked out, whatever term you want to use, to get the game-winning touchdown against Kirk Cousins. So I can't help but like Tom Brady in this spot. He's the world's greatest American. And I'm looking forward to this. And speaking of great Americans, that's you, man. We'll be betting some props. We're doing some stuff with the Dynasty Warzone Patreon crew. We have got a little spinoff that is included in the Dynasty Warzone Patreon that involves gambling. I think we've got maybe a dozen people in there, including me, you, and Maddie. Yeah. And we're pulling together and making some big bets of our own, having some fun. Come out about even last week. I think we lost $6 total. We made some big bets and took some big swings. We're going to do it again this weekend. But I want to thank you for coming regardless.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
Yeah, man. And the props, we're not going to get as greedy. We're not going to keep doubling up every time. We're going to be a little bit more mindful in our strategy. But if you're curious about all that, you can either DM me at DWZ Memphis or you can just check out patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. But guys, we will be back here, and Dr. Kyle and I will be back here all the way through the Super Bowl. That'll be through, I think it's February 8th, and then we'll go to once a month. We'll cover the draft and some draft props. We'll be live Wednesday, the night before the draft, with an update on our draft props. And then as we get into season, we'd like to have some gambling guests on. I have a couple lined up. I'd like to get Rosalie Michaels back on from DraftKings and just talk some overall, some betting strategy. We'll talk futures. It'll all be football, but we'll still pop by and talk gambling with you once a month in the off season. And man, then in 2021, we got a full slate of shows for you. We're going to have 8 shows a week. That's right. Rocking this show 8 days a week. We're going to have Maddie Biggs on Monday. We're going to have the two Kyles, the good Kyle and Dr. Kyle, and their third man, Jake. They'll be doing a waiver wire and injury report on Tuesdays via podcast. Jerry and I will be doing the War Zone on Wednesdays. Dr. Kyle and I will be back to talk about big bets next year on Thursdays in the podcast. Fridays will be Kyle, the good Kyle, and Jake. They'll be getting you ready for the weekend of redraft action. Then Saturday, Tyler and Lou will be getting ready for DFS as well as the Propcast. And then on Sunday, the show that I'm looking the most forward to is going to be the live YouTube show. It'll only be on YouTube, and we'll be doing start sits. Dr. Kyle might answer a medical question or two, and you may get one host, you may get 2 hosts, you may get 8 of the Dynasty Warzone hosts. But we'll be out there, man. We have a lot going. Is your wife prepared for this? Is she mentally prepared? Well, the good thing is that the waiver and injury show should only be about 20, 30 minutes. I know Kyle keeps that pretty short, but it'll be great to have the good doctor on there talking the injuries that plague our dynasty and fantasy rosters on a weekly basis, as well as from a gambling standpoint. We'll be doing that here on Wednesdays, but a lot going on. Please rate and review the show, again, wherever you're consuming that via podcast. And if you happen to be checking this out on YouTube, man, just subscribe. Turn those notifications on or don't. Whatever works best for you. Just remember to check back, and you won't miss any football content. We're going to keep you chock full of football. We'll be talking rookies and a whole lot more. But Dr. Kyle, man, that's enough. Let's get out of here. We'll remind him of the Propcast on Saturday. But on behalf of that man, he is the dirtiest player in the game today. He is Dr. Kyle Bowser. You can follow him at DWZ_PT. And you can follow me at DWZ Memphis. And here at the DWZ Football Network and the Big Bet, we will remind you that money won is twice as sweet as money earned. We'll see you back here on Saturday for some DFS and some props.